Hello! Welcome to Bad at Board Games.
Well, he's bad at board games.
My name's Brad Blake.
And I'm Toph Ferguson.
We're bad at board games, so you don't have to be like Toph.
No, you want to be like me because I won.
You definitely kicked my butt.
That's an understatement.
What are we talking about today, Toph?
Renature.
Re of the nature.
Or just Renature.
Exactly.
Not of the, but you know.
Stick around to the end. You'll find out what our pros and cons are, what our BGG rating is, and the value rating. Is this worth your money? So starting off, who designed it? Who published it?
Yes. So Renature is a 2020 game designed by Michael Keisling and Wolfgang Kramer, and it's published by a handful of publishers. Here in the US, I believe primarily you will see Capstone Games, but Pegasus Spiel and others, depending on where you are in the world. Good quality, good stuff.
The theme is a nature theme and nature dominoes, but with a lot of strategy and extra depth layered on top of that. I personally think this could have any theme. It looks nice in the nature theme, but it could just be numbers. It could be space themed. It could be fantasy themed, whatever, images that you want to put on dominoes, you can make that happen.
And your types of meeples, I guess. I do.
Peoples? They're plants.
Plant meeples, so they're peoples. So we're back to peoples.
Plamples.
Plamples.
That's not right either.
That's just,
wood and plants.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Plants are wood. Some plants are wood.
Yeah. I think I agree with you on that. It could be any theme at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think they did a good job of implementing the theme into the gameplay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
You're planting, you're putting plants into a garden essentially, and trying to have area control. So, what are some of the mechanics that we're using in this game?
Yes. So off the bat, as you can see by some of the pieces here, majority of this is going to be tile placement. At least in what you are physically doing is going to be tile placement. But it's a lot more than that. It's not so much area control, but area influence or area majority, where you are going in and there might be a little bit of give and take, but it's not so much like a battle war area control. This is not Inish. Hand management is going to be what I think is the bigger aspect of the game. Now it's less of what you're really doing, but you have 3 tiles at any given time. And on your tiles, you're going to, just like dominoes, see animals, and they may be the same. They probably are going to be different, but you have 3 of them and you're placing them out on the board, touching another domino of like kind, or using the wild system. And so that is a big part of it. But when it really comes into the hand management is going to be in the resources you have. And that is your plants. You have a limited supply in 4 different categories, and they all have different point ranges. And so you're really trying to manage what you have in your hand. As you go out and you're laying down your pieces, we're looking at enclosing spaces. So building these gardens, as Brad described. So putting your plants in it, kind of surrounding it by the animals in the habitat. But you are going for that enclosure so you can gain points. And if you do enclose an area, you're going to get some bonus points at the end of the game. So there's a little bit of end game scoring. Most of the scoring takes place as you play, as you put down your pieces, but you'll have a little bit at the end of the game. And then the last part of it, at least mechanic-wise, is going to be in your bonus actions. They're limited. You got to find the clouds to be able to spend your currency to do bonus actions, but you could do an extra turn, or maybe you could change up what is wild or collect some of your plants back so that you have more resources to go out and get more points in the long run. But tile management, area influence, the biggest.
Yep. Player count, we've played it at 2 players. It does not play solo. I think at 3 it would be fun and a little bit more chaotic, and you wouldn't have to necessarily watch every garden that the other player is doing. So that might help out a little bit. You keep getting fewer and fewer plants and fewer dominoes as you increase your player count. So it might start to feel like you don't have much and you want more. I never felt like I didn't have enough until the end of the game when you're like, how did I use up all my plants? Right? It's kind of a weird
which you
thing.
want to.
Yeah.
Because you lose points if you don't use them.
Yeah. But, so the player count, I guess, 2 to 3 easily. We can't comment on 4, but that's kind of where I would say is best.
I'd like to try it at 4.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to try it at all player counts just to see, but I greatly enjoyed it at 2-player.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit a lot to get started because you have a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I greatly enjoyed it at 2.
Yeah. Turn overview. It's like dominoes. You're going to have 3 of the dominoes. You get, I'm going to say, half the dominoes in the box. It's not quite that. The instructions tell you how many dominoes you get, but you separate them at the beginning. You're not drawing from a big pile. And then you're going to place one of your dominoes on the board. And then you're going to then take one of your plants, either a level 1 plant, a level 2, level 3, or level 4, and place it in the garden. You will then score based on what else is in that garden. And then as a free action, you can spend some of your clouds. So there's 6 clouds. 3 clouds allow you to have an extra turn, but that's half your clouds gone. You can spend a cloud to move and make a different animal wild so that you may be able to place dominoes a little bit easier. Or you may be able to, toward the end of the game, if you have some clouds, you're going to want to pick up some plants that have scored already and bring them back to your board, that then you can send them back out and have them score again. That's it. But then there's just so much going on in that thought process, and all the little decisions that you need to make going along makes it interesting.
Yeah. There's a lot going on in the mind and very little going on physically at the board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's one of your pros?
My biggest pro when it comes to this, and I've got a handful of them, but the biggest one is in how they give you the ability to not just have your pieces, but also a neutral player piece. Mm-hmm. So if you notice, Brad's going to hold up a couple pieces. So blue, typically my color when I play games. On my board, I'm also going to have my blue pieces and the natural colors, the wooden color meeples. The neutral player piece can give you points, so it's something you want to use.
When you place it, you will get points.
Yes, but at the same time, it also is a good way to kind of mitigate a little bit what's going on the board, because in this game, as you're going out, you're placing your tiles, you're planting a plant, you're gaining points immediately based on your plant size and anything that's in that space, your opponents, the neutral, or your own pieces of equal or lower value. But then when it comes to the area influence, this is where it comes into play, because if you have 2 players in a space that have the same influence, the same points,
mm-hmm.
they cancel each other out. They are as if they do not exist.
And you're fighting for these victory points that are in each garden.
Mm-hmm. So whoever has the majority influence is going to get the higher points. Then the second is going to get the next, but there's no ties. So you have to be able to play out this neutral color with your player color to know, okay, well, where is it that I need the points? Where is it that I need the influence? Maybe what do I need to do to cancel out somebody else's influence in it? And they can do the same to you. So you're having to balance this because you don't get area influence with the neutral player.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I do. I did not think that I would enjoy that aspect because I really saw this game as being more cutthroat. But that neutral player, that ability to put out these pieces and mitigate a little bit of what's going on to be able to get the most amount of points is fantastic. So like in a 2-player game, for example, if I'm able to cancel out Brad's influence with a neutral and I have the next influence down, now I take all of the influence because I'm the only one with plants in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can really play well with it. Maybe you say, I don't care about some of the smaller spaces. I'm going to go down and put just my pieces in the bottom. There's a lot of thought that goes into that. And I thought they did that well. It's not just me and you,
mm-hmm.
but it's not an AI because you're manipulating it.
Right.
But it's interesting.
Yeah. And it's take that, but it's not take that. It's almost like outsmarting. Right. So I didn't feel like it was a take that game. I do like take that. But I never felt like that was what was happening within the game. I would say my pro is that, like, I'm not a huge abstract person, even though I love the ones I love a lot, right? I enjoyed, even though I got beat significantly in this game, I enjoyed my play of it. So that's kind of my pro, I guess, is that I enjoyed thinking about what I was trying to do, looking at the 3 dominoes that I had, and trying to make it work. Maybe I should have been picking and using some wilds or moving the wilds around a little bit more. But like I played it and now I want to play it again to get better, and narrow that gap between me and Toph versus like I don't ever want to play it again. So that's a pro, because regardless of I enjoyed the journey, enjoying the journey of a board game is a huge success in and of itself.
Yeah, you kind of equated it in our talk before to Hive.
Yeah, I mean, like Hive's, but
well,
it's an abstract.
In terms of, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that better to make more sense. In terms of, it's an abstract game, you're doing something, but you wanted to play it again and again and again to get better. And now I can't beat Brad at Hive. Like, I can't. I did in the beginning, but now I can't. Like, it's few and far between if I ever do. He kind of craved that, trying to get better at the game, and
it helped that one was like a 5-10 minute game.
Well, yeah,
but yes, it's the same kind of thing. I enjoyed my journey of the game.
So, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So cons for you?
So I don't know necessarily that this is so much of a con, but in the 2-player game at the beginning, you have a lot going on. You have a lot of pieces. You have a lot of tiles. Now, granted, you only have 3 to look at a time, but you have 20-some tiles to play through, and then you have all of these meeples, and trying to figure out what to do, almost a little overwhelming. Now, I say that with the fact that, like any new game, you don't know what you're doing in the beginning of the game until you figure it out. And so we did get into a rhythm, both of us, and we knew exactly what we were doing. We were both playing very well. But there's a lot in the beginning, which can kind of feel a little overwhelming. I don't really have a lot of cons. I don't.
I would say that would be the same con I had. We play some complex games, but I think you're looking at a lot of these, and then like it's almost Barrage-ish. When we first played Barrage, it was like there was so much there, and trying to keep track and figure out. Now that we've played it a lot, or I've played it a lot, like I kind of know how I want to play my game based on what I'm seeing, and you would get to that in this, but there's so much there, that you're being like, okay, I'm going to place something here, and you're going to like, how is that going to either open up possibilities for you or close off possibilities for you as you're playing? And I kind of equated it to this: you're enclosing gardens. It's kind of like that game you played when you were a kid. You had a whole bunch of dots, and you're trying to enclose squares. It's that times a million, because at some point somebody's always like, oh, well, I'm always going to be able to make the squares, and look at all these. You don't get that, but then like, if they do close it off, who has more plant points in that area, and then they're going to be able to get, the big 13 victory point area. Like I went into this one spot really trying to get the 13-point garden, and I thought I had it, and I had a lot of plants in there, and then Toph came in with a couple of the big 4-point trees and was able to, get 50 points within 3 turns, and including the end points within that 50 points for the whole garden. Like that was a big swing. I was pushing for that and letting some other things go, but then he was still able to come in and kind of snatch, defeat, victory from the jaws of defeat, kind of a thing. So like there's a lot going on this, and that's not a con. It's just there's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, one of the pros for me is that there's very little to the game, but there's so much strategy and so much tactical play. Brad could see some strategy. He went for it. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him in that game, but it might in the next. I don't think you had a bad strategy at all, but I'm the tactical player, and I kind of reacted a little bit to what Brad was doing and tried to throw some of his strategy off. And it just, it's a thought-provoking game. I did think of a con, an actual con. The last one wasn't really an actual con. This one is. Brad's pulling me to the dark side. I used to not have an issue with this. I'm a Euro gamer. If you're new to the channel, welcome to Bad at Board Games, where Toph's a Euro gamer, and I like especially worker placement. But Point salad. I've never really had big problems with high point salad-y games, but as we play over the years, Brad has really been like, man, this is a huge, like, why 300 points? Why so many points in a game? And this is one of those. That one, like, 3-turn spread, we knew the game was done because I got 50 some points, and I think that's actually without the 13-point special bonus. And it was like, okay, it's done. Like, why did I need over 200 points and Brad had over 100? I mean, it was almost a 100-point spread. That's a lot. And I can see where if you're consistently falling in that second, third place slot, being so far behind a leader, that it wouldn't be fun after a while. I don't feel like it didn't feel like I ran you over.
No,
I did, but it didn't feel like I did.
Right.
And I wasn't going for that. I wanted to win, obviously, but I wasn't going to destroy him.
Yep.
And so that would be a con. It is very point salad-y.
BGG weight rating. Yeah,
I don't agree with this. So on BGG, people have rated it about a 2.2. I think it was 2.21 is what is currently on BGG. I don't agree with that. Like, yes, learning how to play the game was pretty easy, and the mechanics are relatively easy, but there's so much thought and strategy in this game that it takes it far above a 2.2. Now, where does it take it? It's at least a 2.5, I think, at least. We've talked about it a little bit. You know, one of the games that we compare a lot of things to is Castles of Burgundy because it's a solid 3. I don't necessarily think this is more than Castles of Burgundy. We're not near that. But it's at least a 2.5, and with a caveat that if you are playing this as a family and maybe your family is not one to get into higher strategy games, if everybody's on the same level playing field, you don't have to think so far into strategy. But your family, my family, us, our gaming group, we are all those that go into the strategy and really into the sometimes very heavyweight games, but at least the thinky games. We're going to get into that. You're not going to have a 2.2 game with this much thought in what you're going to do and planning it out. So, yeah, so I at least 2.5. I think you were saying maybe about 2.75.
Well, I think just it's the depth of it, right?
Yeah.
You know, like it's, you know, somewhere between checkers and chess, you know, so you just have a lot that you can think about. Like, I'm still just placing this. That's like checkers and dominoes. But if I do, which one of these plant things do I put out into the garden? And then, like, where will he go, and does he want that garden now or is it later? Or, you know, like, there is a lot that you're thinking about as you're playing.
Yeah, every turn you're thinking ahead, not just now, but ahead.
Right.
And honestly, the tile placement, even though this looks like it's the biggest part of the game, it's secondary.
Yeah.
It's really your plan.
It's more about how you're managing the resources that you have, and then when are you going to strike and use a cloud to go twice,
or change to a wild,
something else like that. So there's, you know, that's where I'm kind of like, it wasn't that hard to play, but you want to, you know, like as you're trying to master something, and no, we're not mastered at this, but you know, like there is a lot more to this than you would really think.
Yeah. Makes me laugh the fact that these cloud tokens, which you can pick up 4 or 5 of them as you play, but you only get like 6 of them to go, and 3 of them you would spend to take a second turn, or 2 of them you would spend to change the wild. These are worth 1 point. If they're on your board at the end of the game, you get 1 point for them. I had close to like 300 points. Spend these. Do not be afraid. Spend them.
Yeah, definitely something you want to use. The value rating. So you can get this. I think I paid more from it. I'm going to have to look it up, but you can get this now for $32 on Miniature Market, probably a little bit higher, maybe 35-ish on Amazon. But, you know, for what you're getting out of this, you only have to play that 3 times for this to be a $10 game.
Yeah.
So, you know, if this were $10, I would say this has a value rating of 5. If it were $50 or $100, it'd be a value rating of maybe 1. But at this like $31, $32 mark, you know, I'm going to say this is a solid 4, with the caveat, like, you're still going to have to, if you don't like any abstracts ever, this is not going to be a value for you. But if there are some that you do like and some that kind of make their way in there, this is something you could like.
Yeah, I agree with that. You get fantastic pieces. I mean, just chunky, really nice meeples.
Mm-hmm.
Great tiles. They're wooden. I mean, it's silk screened. Like wood. Yeah, it's good stuff.
They've done a nice job. So it's at least a 4 value.
Yeah.
Value rating. BGG ranks. I'll go first because I know Toph liked this a little bit more than I did. I think this is a good game. I enjoyed my journey of it. I would play it again. I can recommend it. I mean, it really kind of depends. It's hard for me to just like, oh, I'll go out and get this. There are caveats. Do you like an abstract? Do you like some of these things? For me, I'm going to sit this at a 7. I think it's a good game. But it's not like, for me an 8, and it's definitely not. There's enough of a game here. It's not a 6.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm gonna say it's a solid 7.
7 is a great rating for a game. Most of my games that I want to keep are a 7, maybe higher. But I am rating it a little bit higher. I did like it a little bit more. I didn't think I would like it as much as I did, but you from the beginning said this is your game. This is your game. You're gonna love this game.
I thought Toph would like this quite a bit.
Yeah, and I did. I did. I don't know exactly where it's going to fall. I want to play it some more. I want to play it at the different player counts before I finalize my score. But it is at least a 7.5 for me. It might be an 8. I don't know. I think there's a lot of replayability in this compared to some other abstract games. I tried to think of things that were similar. Photosynthesis came up in my mind. I thought I would love that. It was described to me as a chess game. Not the same game. You're planting trees. You're looking at the sun to give you points and stuff and the shadows and all that kind of stuff. So kind of similar influence area type getting your points, but I didn't find a lot of replayability in that. With this, I do. And that's important for an abstract game to be able to come back over and over again. So I think it's going to get closer to the 8, but it's at least a 7.5 for me. This is a game that I recommend. I do enjoy it.
Cool. So what do you think? Have you played Renature? Are you interested in it? Or you're like, nah, that doesn't sound like something I'm interested in at all. Let us know down in the comments. We really enjoy going back and forth with you and hearing what you think.
Yeah. And Best at Star Trek recommended this to us to be able to play. We really do listen to the comments you guys have. So when you recommend games, we may not be able to get all of them. But we do look into them, and Best at Star Trek, thank you for recommending a game that I can completely destroy Brad in. I do appreciate it.
No. So hit the like, hit the subscribe. We really do appreciate that. That helps out us and the channel and allows us to every once in a while get a game from a publisher so that we can review it for you. Just remember, no matter how you play, whether it's solo, with family, or friends,
enjoy whatever game you are bringing to the game.
Have a great night.